My family made me take the fall for a crime my sister committed, so I secretly filmed her confession and played it at her gender reveal. You ever sit in a room full of people who are supposed to love you and still feel like you're trespassing in your own life? That's been my reality for as long as I can remember. And maybe if I had just stayed in my lane, played the role they wrote for me, I wouldn't be where I am now. But then again, maybe I'd never be free. The moment that gender reveal screen went black, replaced by something no one saw coming. Yeah, that was the moment everything finally snapped into place. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where all this started, when I was just the screw-up little brother no one took seriously. I'm 22M now, just turned last month. But in my family, I might as well still be 17 and grounded for disrespecting the family name. That's how it always was. My sister, Emily, she's 24, pre-med, influencer, everyone's favorite sunbeam. If perfection had a face, it'd be the one she filters on Instagram. Parents love that crap. Grades, glossy headshots, and charity work for the likes. Me? I was the cautionary tale. Growing up, I learned fast that love in our house was transactional. You showed your worth with report cards and public praise. Anything less was a threat to the family brand. My parents, Sharon and Martin, are the kind of people who smile with their mouths and scowl with their eyes. They run their lives, and ours, like a curated storefront. And Emily? She was the flagship product. From the outside, it probably looked like we had it all. Suburban two-story, annual ski trips, the kind of family who says, we don't air our dirty laundry, with a smile that dares you to try. But inside, I was a walking red flag from day one. Too loud, too curious, too messy. I think it really started in high school. I had some issues with focus and anxiety, nothing outrageous, just your standard teenage overload. But my parents didn't believe in therapy. Fix it yourself or fail, my dad once said. So when I started taking Adderall prescribed at first, but eventually, not always by a doctor, they lost it. I remember the look on my mom's face the day she found the pill bottle I'd stashed behind my desk lamp. Not anger, not concern, just disgust. Like I'd smeared something filthy across her perfectly polished home. They locked up my phone, dragged me to school counselor meetings, threatened to send me to one of those reform boarding schools for troubled boys. That year, they told family friends I was on a break from school to find myself. I was grounded for 3 months straight. Meanwhile, Emily? She could do no wrong. Got drunk at a party and crashed into a bush, just kids being kids. Skipped school for a concert, a much-needed mental health day. But me? I missed one chemistry quiz after a panic attack, and suddenly I was the cautionary tale passed around their wine club like a ghost story. Eventually, I stopped trying. If you're always the problem, you start to believe it. I played into it for a while. Snuck out. Got caught smoking. Stayed just smart enough not to flunk out, but never enough to make the honor roll. It was easier to be what they expected than to constantly disappoint than trying to be something more. By the time I hit college, I was just grateful to get out. I scraped into a small liberal arts school 2 hours away and threw myself into audio engineering, something no one in my family understood or respected. They called it a hobby, even when I landed internships and assistant gigs. Emily was dissecting cadavers and planning TEDx talks, and I was wiring mic stands at student events. It wasn't even a contest. Not in their eyes. But here's the thing about being the black sheep. You learn to adapt. You survive on scraps of kindness and carve your identity out of rejection. And no matter how many times they tried to paint me as the failure, I started building something of my own. A life that didn't need their approval. Still, some scars don't fade just because you've moved out. You can only ignore being the family scapegoat for so long before it seeps into every part of your identity. I spent years trying to prove I wasn't the person they said I was. And the one time I actually needed them to see that, well, that's when everything exploded. It was a Friday night in late October. I was in my dorm room, mid-edit on a podcast project, when my phone started vibrating nonstop. 5 missed calls from Emily. I almost didn't answer. But when I did, she was crying, hyperventilating. I hit someone, she kept saying. I didn't see them. I was checking my GPS. Please, you have to help me. I froze. My brain couldn't even compute it at first. She was parked on a side road near campus. Alone. She clipped a jogger while texting, at least that's what she said then. She needed help. No cops yet. She was terrified. She didn't know what to do. And for some dumb, brotherly reason, I ran. I didn't think about what it meant. I just grabbed my hoodie and left. Maybe some part of me still wanted to be useful. Maybe I thought if I helped her, it would finally mean something. That maybe, for once, I'd be part of the family instead of the scapegoat. When I got there, I saw the damage. The crumpled fender, the jogger already being loaded into an ambulance, unconscious but alive. And I saw my sister, shaking in her heels, clutching her phone like a lifeline. And then our parents arrived. That's when everything changed. That night was the beginning of the end for me, of whatever sliver of family loyalty I had left. Because instead of helping their daughter take responsibility, instead of asking what really happened, they had a different plan. A plan that would rip whatever was left of my life to shreds. They looked at me, then at her, and I knew. They'd already made the decision. I remember that conversation like it was stitched into my skin. My dad's voice, low and sharp, like he was dictating instructions. My mom standing close behind, arms folded like a disapproving jury. They told me exactly what needed to happen. Emily couldn't be the one to take the fall. Not with her med school applications pending. Not with her growing social media following. Not with their image on the line. It would destroy her future. It would destroy them. But me? I was expendable. They wanted me to say I was driving the car. It didn't even feel real. I stood there blinking at them, thinking it was some kind of twisted joke. But they weren't joking. They said it so matter-of-factly, like they were asking me to take out the trash or loan them $5. Just sign your name on the confession, tell the cops it was you. It won't be that bad. I told them no. Of course I did. I wasn't a saint, but I'd never done anything close to this. This wasn't just protecting family. This was criminal. A felony. A life-ruining decision. That's when they turned the screws. First came the reminders. My Adderall use in high school. The times I skipped class. That time I got caught with a fake ID. Stupid teenage stuff, but enough that they could twist it. They said they still had records. Screenshots. Photos. Things they never showed me but swore they kept just in case. They said it wouldn't take much to convince the school board I was unstable, a drug abuser, a liability. That they'd already covered for me more than I knew. Then came the threat of total isolation. They'd cut me off, disown me, make sure everyone knew I was the disgrace who refused to help his sister in her hour of need. I'd be left with nothing. No tuition help, no place to stay, no support. And even if I didn't care about them, they'd make sure my college did. They knew I was already hanging by a thread financially. I'd scraped together enough through grants and part-time jobs, but one call from them could jeopardize everything. And they knew it. I didn't agree right away. I think I stood there for a full minute, my heartbeat drumming in my ears, wondering if this was the moment my life split off into something unrecognizable. But eventually, I folded. It wasn't bravery or loyalty. It was fear. I was terrified. I felt like a pawn on a chessboard I didn't even know I was playing on. When the police arrived, I told them I had been driving. The official story was clean. I'd taken Emily's car late at night to grab some food. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't speeding. It was just a tragic accident. They didn't push too hard. I gave a rehearsed statement, and my dossier was clean enough for them to offer a plea deal instead of a prison sentence. The jogger survived, thankfully, but had a long recovery ahead. I never got to speak to him. Never even learned his name. He became a ghost in the margins of my downfall. Someone whose life was shattered alongside mine, though in very different ways. I pled guilty to reckless driving and endangerment. Got probation. Community service. Lost my scholarship. My enrollment was suspended pending review. Just like that, everything I'd built, meager as it was gone. The worst part? Emily didn't just get off scot-free. She flourished. She spun the whole thing like she was the collateral victim. The heartbroken sister who watched her brother spiral. She posted vague captions about family struggles and trauma no one sees behind the smiles. She started doing mental health awareness videos. Talked about the toll the crash took on her. How close she'd come to losing her brother. People ate it up. Sympathy flooded in. Brands reached out. She landed partnerships with wellness products, anxiety apps, and even a local health clinic that offered her a paid internship. She became, if it's even possible, more beloved. My parents fed the narrative. They praised her resilience, her compassion, how brave she was for staying strong. They said I'd taken some time away to heal and reflect. Meanwhile, I was stuck at home, ankle monitor tight, inbox full of rejection letters. I couldn't go back to school. Couldn't find work that didn't background check me into oblivion. Couldn't even talk to friends without feeling like a fraud. I watched my sister smile through curated filters while I scrubbed graffiti off park benches for community service. I heard my parents on the phone, lying to relatives, pretending everything was normal. And when I brought up the truth, even just in passing, they'd shut it down immediately. Said I should be grateful they didn't let it go to trial. That was when I decided. I was done. Done letting them dictate my life. Done carrying the weight of their secrets. And especially done pretending this was anything close to love. So I cut them off. Blocked every number. Deleted every email. Left a single message in our family group chat that simply said, "Don't contact me again." And then I vanished. Going no contact sounds empowering when you say it out loud. But in the beginning, it's just lonely. I threw myself into work. Learned how to wire soundboards, calibrate lighting rigs, splice film reels, run live streams. I became the guy people called when the tech broke 5 minutes before showtime. The fixer. The ghost in the booth. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. I didn't plan revenge. Not right away. That would come later, when the numbness wore off and the anger found its voice. But seeds were being planted. That deep, simmering burn under the ribs. The injustice of it all. She got clout. I got a criminal record. She got praise for being a survivor of my fall. I got silence. About a year after I disappeared, I got wind of her engagement. A med student from the same university, wealthy background, matching designer watches, and a mutual obsession with maintaining perfect appearances. It was all over her socials. Influencer couple. Couples Q&A. Gender reveal announcement. 2 months into her pregnancy. That was when the plan started to form. She posted about a lavish gender reveal party. Custom cake. Outdoor projection screens. Matching outfits for every guest. Hashtag themes. The works. And something about it, the sheer over-the-top ridiculousness of it, made everything click. That party was going to be the stage. The place where her entire world revolved around a carefully choreographed spectacle, just like it always had. I reached out to her 3 weeks before the event. She was surprised, of course. A little cautious, but mostly intrigued. I told her I wanted closure. That I'd gone through therapy. That I'd been reflecting on everything and wanted to bury the past. I kept my tone soft, calm, forgiving. Told her I didn't blame her anymore, that I understood what pressure could do to someone. She bought it. I suggested we meet for coffee before the party, somewhere low-key. I listened as she rambled about the baby, her growing brand, how hard it had been to move past the crash, and my sacrifice, as she called it. Then, without prompting, she said something that cemented everything. She laughed a little and said she still couldn't believe I actually took the fall. Said she would have been screwed if I hadn't shown up that night. Her words, not mine. That was all I needed. But she didn't know that I was recording the whole conversation. Afterward, I edited the clip down to a tight, damning monologue. Just her voice. No interruptions. Just her gloating about the lie, how she walked away untouched, and how she never thought I'd actually go through with taking the blame. I RSVP'd to the gender reveal party that same week. Told her I'd bring my camera gear and offered to record the event, free of charge. Said it was my way of supporting the family again. Of turning a new page. She called it sweet. The party was exactly what I expected, excessive, glittery, and suffocating. Held at some fancy vineyard-turned venue with rows of string lights, a rented DJ, catered brunch, even a champagne wall with little blue and pink tags. Guests were wearing coordinated pastel outfits. Her fiancé was beaming, all toothy smiles and soft hands. My parents? Front row center, holding hands and greeting everyone like minor celebrities. No one knew what I'd done, or what I was about to do. I pretended to be the dutiful family member. Set up my camera. Laughed at jokes. Avoided the bar. I filmed the first half of the party like I was actually invested in it. Guest interviews, table shots, awkward dances. The whole fake fairy tale. But inside, I was electric. Watching the moment build. I'd already tested the venue's AV system that morning, claiming I wanted to integrate live shots from my camera into the screen. What I really did was prep a USB file to override the projector feed. And just before the big moment, the confetti blast, the colored smoke, whatever dramatic reveal they had cooked up, I stepped up to the tech booth and swapped the file. No one noticed. Not until the countdown ended, and instead of pink or blue lights lighting up the vineyard, her voice rang out through the speakers. Clear, confident, smug. I still can't believe you actually took the fall. I would have been so screwed. And so the entire recording of her confession was played. And then silence. Then chaos. There's a moment, just after the chaos begins, but before people know exactly how to react, where everything seems to freeze. I remember standing in that vineyard courtyard, watching as her recorded voice echoed across the lawn, surrounded by strings of pastel balloons and guests holding champagne flutes mid-toast. I still can't believe you actually took the fall. I would have been so screwed. And then silence. It lasted maybe 2-3 seconds, but it felt like time cracked. The crowd turned toward the screen. Toward me. A few guests let out sharp little gasps. One woman put her hand to her chest like she'd just witnessed a murder. The DJ, frozen mid-scroll on his iPad, looked around like someone had just hit a fire alarm. Emily's fiancé was the first to move. He whipped his head toward her, confusion painted across his face. My sister was already turning pale. She reached for the AV remote like she could undo it, but I'd already disabled all inputs except mine. Then I stepped forward. I hadn't planned on making a speech. I thought the recording alone would be enough. But standing there, watching their faces shift, confusion morphing into realization, realization into horror, I felt something rise in my chest that had been buried for years. And I told them everything. I kept my voice calm. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I told the crowd that almost 2 years ago, my sister had hit a jogger while texting and driving. That she'd called me in a panic. That I rushed to help, like any brother might, hoping to protect her from a terrible mistake. I explained how our parents arrived minutes later and immediately decided that the family reputation mattered more than the truth. How they threatened me, used my past against me, dangled my scholarship, my future, over a pit, and then pushed. I said I pled guilty to a crime I didn't commit. That I lost everything, my education, my future, my credibility, while they crafted a public image of resilience and redemption around Emily. I told them she got sponsorships, sympathy, praise. I got house arrest and a ruined record. Then I told them I wasn't looking for revenge, just truth. That the people here deserved to know who they were really celebrating. That her fiancé deserved to know who he was marrying. I finished by saying that secrets rot everything they touch, and that I wasn't going to carry theirs anymore. The silence that followed was louder than any scream I'd ever heard. And then all hell broke loose. Emily rushed at me first. She tried to yank the mic from my hand, but I held my ground. She was crying now, furious, mascara running down her cheeks. She kept repeating that I was lying, that I'd edited the recording, that I was ruining her life again. My parents stormed in right behind her. My mom was already shouting, calling me ungrateful, a manipulator, a disgrace. My dad tried to grab my shoulder, but I stepped back. He kept saying things like I didn't understand what I was doing, how I'd regret this, how I was destroying our family. I looked at them. These people who had twisted love into something transactional and cruel, and I felt nothing. Guests were starting to leave. Some looked disgusted. Others stayed, clutching their phones, recording everything. Emily's fiancé stood still, silent, staring at her like he didn't recognize the person beside him. She noticed. That's when she cracked. Emily spun toward him, pleading, begging him not to believe me. She was sobbing now, loud and uncontrollable. She swore it wasn't what it looked like, that I'd taken things out of context. He didn't say a word, just walked past her. Then he left. What followed was a blur of yelling, broken glass, and someone knocking over a balloon arch. My parents tried to save face, my mom dragging my sister to the side, hissing about PR damage control. My dad still trying to convince me to stop the playback even though it had already ended. But there was no salvaging it. The lie had been too big, the exposure too raw. Some guests lingered out of morbid curiosity. Others whispered and slipped away, likely to gossip later about the scandal they'd witnessed at what was supposed to be a picture-perfect event. I didn't stick around for the cleanup. I packed my camera, slung my bag over my shoulder, and walked straight through the chaos. No one stopped me. No one could. The moment I hit the parking lot, I felt it. The first breath of real air I'd had in years. I didn't post the video publicly. I didn't need to. The people who mattered had seen it. And the rest? Well, word got around. The recording circulated. Among alumni circles, extended relatives, old friends. My sister's sponsors dropped her within a week. The influencer deals vanished. People stopped inviting my parents to events. The phone calls dried up. Their curated world cracked, then crumbled. As for me, I didn't gloat. I didn't do interviews or press charges. I just walked away. It's funny, the way silence shifts. For years, silence in my life meant something stifling. It meant isolation, shame, that quiet void after another family dinner where no one looked me in the eye. After a punishment I didn't deserve. After watching my sister get celebrated while I was told to stay out of the family photos. But now, silence feels like peace. The week after the party, I turned off my phone and drove up north. No destination, no plan. Just me, a beat-up hatchback, and a playlist of songs that used to remind me of who I was before everything twisted. I stayed off the grid for a while. Rented a tiny cabin through a friend. Spent my mornings walking trails, my nights staring up at stars I hadn't seen in years. No pressure to prove anything. No guilt crawling down my spine. No curated smiles or staged apologies. Just stillness. Space. The video spread through the kind of digital grapevine that cannot be stopped once it has started to grow. College forums, alumni threads, and Facebook group chats were filled with people who remembered Emily as a golden girl and were now replaying the confession in a circle. She tried to deny it at first, claimed I doctored the audio, said I was mentally unstable, bitter, vindictive. But no one bought it. Not when the people at the party had witnessed the chaos in real time. Not when her fiancé publicly broke off the engagement and deleted every post featuring her from his feed. Her brand deals evaporated. The influencer life dried up. And the invitations stopped coming. My parents didn't fare much better. The suburban empire they'd built, years of holiday parties, fundraiser appearances, networking dinners, crumbled almost overnight. They tried to spin the story, of course. Claimed I was ungrateful, that I'd staged everything to ruin the family's reputation. But the truth has a way of lingering. It doesn't matter how many times you sweep it under the rug, it just waits. And when it comes out, it doesn't whisper. It roars. They reached out, eventually. My dad sent an email, short, cold, full of legal threats veiled in fatherly disappointment. He told me the video had cost them dearly, that I should consider what I'd done to the people who raised me. My mom followed with a string of voicemail messages, some pleading, others furious. I didn't respond to any of them. I'd said everything I needed to. Emily, surprisingly, didn't try to contact me at all. Maybe she finally realized what it felt like to be the one frozen out. Maybe she just couldn't bring herself to look in the mirror anymore. Either way, I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. Not even vindictive. I was done. Done living in the shadow of a lie. Work picked up. A lot. The exposure, even if unintended, landed me some freelance gigs I never could have imagined. A filmmaker who'd seen my editing work through a mutual contact reached out. Then a theater director. Then a podcast producer. They weren't interested in the drama. They just saw the work and liked what they saw. I started making enough to move out of the shoebox apartment. Nothing flashy, just a place with decent lighting, a second-hand couch that didn't collapse if you looked at it wrong, and space to set up my gear properly. I started sleeping better, laughing more, living. And the best part? No one looked at me like I was the problem anymore. And for the first time in a long time, I like where it's going.